Kenny, what's today's topic?
All right. Today's topic. Does your family know what to do if something happens to you?
Now, this is a very uncomfortable topic. This is something that a lot of people don't want to deal with, don't want to talk about. A lot of superstitions and all these other things that are going on, but there are some basic things that your family need to know. In the event that something happens to you, we want to have that discussion. We want to not just be a podcast for entertainment, but to share some information to maybe inspire people to handle things differently and maybe make the right preparations for yourself and your family. Right, Kenny?
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then with this question, assuming that they are talking about, being unalive, but not necessarily, right? Just if anything happens to you. But I'm assuming they're saying the question is that you're being unalive on that one. So that's what I'm thinking of on that one.
Well, I mean, it could be that, or even if a person is in a coma for a long time,
Yeah,
I'm sure that they would
yeah.
want things handled in a certain way. But if we never talk about these things, well, then, things just typically fall to pieces when these events happen.
And for me, yes. Good thing is my family, my wife could probably impersonate me and keep me alive for a little bit longer if she wanted to. She know everything about me, man. She
Right.
know me.
Well, that's good. I mean, I've even talked to my adult children about, well, in the event that something happens, this is what you do. Here's where the paperwork is. This is what you should do from A to Z. All of the instructions written down on what to do.
Yep, that's good.
I went online and I was just looking up some information here. And it says the death of a parent profoundly impacts a family, creating emotional distress like grief, shock, and sadness, while also shifting family dynamics and roles. Surviving family members may experience confusion and conflict over practical matters like finances or property, while their individual grief can make it hard to connect and support one another. The loss can destabilize children who may feel abandonment or anger or leave the surviving parent with the immense task of managing their own grief alongside their children's emotional needs. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts on that?
nobody is prepared for anything like that. I mean, even if you try to leave all the instructions, everything you can, when you lose a family member, a lot of emotions are going on, and a lot of things happen that you're not quite prepared for all of that.
Yeah, and there's, you have to be aware that there's vultures out there. So you have to make your family prepared for dealing with vultures and people that will try to take advantage of them, in those emotional tough times. Because there are people out there that have no moral values that will try to take advantage. Isn't that right,
That's right.
Kenny?
Oh yeah, everywhere you look, especially when something like that happens, from banks and debt collectors and everybody else coming for it.
Absolutely. Now it says logistical and financial preparation. It says organize essential documents, gather and create a central accessible location for vital documents like birth certificates, social security cards, passports, and marriage licenses. Also include financial documents such as bank account details, life insurance policy, retirement plans, mortgages, and investment information. This is the information, Kenny, that they're saying that you should let your spouse know so that they'll know where everything is, because there's a lot of money floating around that people don't know that exists because they were never told about it.
Yeah. And I think the best place to keep it is like if you got like some sort of safe and you have like a file inside the safe and you have all of those passcodes, bank account information, legal documents as far as life insurance goes, anything that can keep your family stable in the event that something happens.
Right, or maybe a safety deposit box at a bank. Now, of course, most rich people have everything set up because they'll have estate planners. And of course, when you have a estate planner and a lawyer to handle that, if something happens, they'll automatically reach out to the family and let everyone know what your wishes were. But of course, realistically, most people are not rich. So you have to do it yourself.
I was
So
about to say,
letting them,
what about the people that's not rich?
yeah, people who aren't rich, they have to make arrangements themselves and let people know what to do. Next on the list, it says make a will. Ensure that you have a current will that clearly states your wishes regarding your assets and beneficiaries. I think that's very important.
It's super important. There's a lot of people that, when a family member passes away, that nobody knows what to do with their stuff. How do you divide that? How do you split that up? Who gets what? Where do we donate it? Do we keep it? What happens? If it's not in the will, then it can cause friction, within the family.
Right. And your will has to be up to date. I've heard of people that have passed and they didn't update their information and they were married to someone new and the new person got nothing because they never went back and changed it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so you got to keep your information up to date and accurate. Next, it says appoint an executor and power of attorney. Officially name an executor for your will and power of attorney to make decisions on your behalf if you become unable to. So don't assume that that means dying. It could mean that if a person gets into an accident or something and they're unconscious, you
Yep,
got to have someone in place to make choices for you, right, Kenny?
that's right. Brain damage, or just can't speak, talk, immobile.
Yeah, because I mean, there's been lots of cases that a person was just in a coma and they came out of it and they were perfectly normal, right? But it could have been months later or years later, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Create a digital estate plan. List your online accounts and decide who you want them handled by after your death, considering setting up a legacy contact for social media and using a password manager for access. So, in this current day and time of technology, social media is a big thing, Kenny. So, what are your thoughts on having someone uh, take control of that after a person is no longer with us?
I mean, it's got to be somebody you trust, right? If you're going to give them that kind of power. But I do think sometimes a middle person is important. Absolutely.
Right. Next, it says communicate your wishes. Even if you don't pre plan everything, clearly communicate your wishes for what happens once a person is gone. Now, a lot of people don't do that. And then you have family fighting and bickering and arguing. And I
That
mean,
ain't
it's
what they
just a
wanted.
complete
That's
mess.
not what they wanted.
Exactly. They didn't want to be cremated. They wanted to be buried on Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
they'd be like,
what?
they must have told you that when they was drunk.
You'd be like, yeah, I never heard that. It was
Yeah.
like, what? I mean, and you have to spell everything out clearly. I've seen families fight over furniture, jewelry. I mean, just it's a
Everything.
mess. Right. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, when someone goes, I'm like, listen, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. Just leave me out of it. But, not everyone carries it like that. Let's see. Next, it says communicate your wishes. Even if you don't pre plan everything, clearly communicate your desires for what happens. And, again, that's just reiterating because a lot of people don't say anything and then it's left up to the family or the children, unfortunately.
And then
It says,
sometimes nobody makes a decision and nothing happens.
oh,
Right.
you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. And when nothing happens, that's not good.
Fall by the wayside.
Fall by the wayside. Uh, Emotional preparation. It says talk openly, have honest conversations about death and your wishes with your family. Creating a space for open communication can reduce anxiety and give your family a sense of control. So they say that you should have open conversations, but of course, people are superstitious. People don't want to talk about it. People think that if you talk about it, that it's going to happen because you're talking about it. No, that's not necessarily so, or it's not so at all. It's just that you want to make preparations, just like for anything else. It's funny how people will make preparations to go to a football game, but they won't make preparations for if something happens to them, right?
Because a lot of it's fear, and having that conversation just takes away that fear.
Yeah, well, I mean, people have to think about it from a perspective of what is it going to be like when they're no longer there? Like if there was a main person, whether husband or wife, that took care of everything, and the other person and the children don't know anything else, they have to think about what is it going to be like for them once they're gone.
How
It
do I
could be
move
a
forward?
nightmare.
Yeah.
Some people end up homeless.
Yep.
You got to tell them what's up. Excuse me. It says share memories, spend quality time together, make memories, and have last conversations. This will be a comfort for your family in the long run after you are gone. So talk about memories, share things, and because lots of people don't know anything about their parents or their siblings or their family. So talk about your family, talk about yourself, and let people know. Or if you're alone and don't have a family, hey, still you should have some record of who you are, what your life is, what you enjoy, and share it. Someone will find it one day and will review it and we'll share it, and the world will see who you were and what you were about. Right, Kenny?
And heavy on the memories. And because I can tell you right now, money doesn't matter when it comes down to that. You can ask your son or your daughter right now and say, hey, what I buy you for your 10th birthday? They'll be like, I don't know. And
You know,
they'll be like, what I buy you for your 5th birthday? I don't know. And they say, what's the most memorable thing you can remember? And they'll tell you a whole entire story of a memory they had with you.
it's funny that you mentioned that. I have in my phone pictures of all my favorite toys when I was a kid, all the toys that I had that I really loved. Yeah, that's crazy.
Nostalgic, right?
Exactly. I'm like, wow, I got all these toys, my favorite train set, my favorite this, my favorite that, my favorite bike, everything. It says record messages, leave video or audio messages for your family as a way of communicating your final thoughts and feelings. I think that that's a great idea, to leave a video. I don't want to say diary, but just videos to share with your family, your future grandchildren. You never know. And in 100 years, someone might be watching your video,
Yeah.
your great whoever, they're looking at it and they're like, oh, granddad was cool. Grandma was cool. So, yeah,
We have a just a little fun fact. We have a an email set up, like when our kids were very little.
Okay.
Right. So we have a set up an email that they've never seen and they know about it, but they won't ever see it. And they'll be able to go back and look into this email and all the messages and pictures and stuff we sent them through all the years.
That is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is real cool. Okay. Now, what can happen if you don't plan and leave everything up to chance? Arguments and fights over last wishes. We all know about that. I've heard of people fighting at the funeral, running around the casket, one person chasing the other, and yeah, just complete chaos.
Mm,
I've heard of that. So you have to be clear so that people don't, when their emotions are in a very high state, they don't become unhinged.
yeah.
Legal disputes over properties and assets, which often leads to fights, whether it's adult children or siblings of the deceased. Sometimes a person can have children, right? But they have grown up children or even small children. Sometimes the person who's deceased, their siblings will come in and try to take over and be like, wait a minute, they wanted us to have this couch or they wanted us to have this and that. But if it's not documented, you can't protect your family.
Right. Just goes to
It'll
the
just lead to
estate.
fights. Exactly. Unfair burden placed on the executor or acting executor. Sometimes, if there's not one, there's typically one person in a family that steps up, that tries to take care of things and try to help. And then everyone comes crashing down on them.
Right.
When they're doing all the work, right? They're making all the arrangements, they're doing everything because there might not have been something in place. So this one person steps up and says, okay, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to get everything arranged and
I'm gonna take
organized. And
control.
now the entire family's fighting them.
When they're the
But
only ones taking the responsibility to do it.
right,
Yeah.
everyone's arguing from the couch. All right, they won't get up off the couch, but they'll argue on it, and make phone calls and threats and everything else. And it's like, come on, if you have it documented, there's nothing that anyone can do or say. Okay.
That's right.
Heightened grief. Families may suffer more psychological morbidity, including complicated or prolonged grief due to being unprepared. Let me tell you, the loss of anyone close to you is scary, and especially for children, you got to have everything arranged so that it takes the scariness out of it. Some people are like, oh my gosh, this was the person who paid our mortgage or who paid our rent. When that
Right.
person's gone, now you're trying to figure out who's going to pay. How are we going to keep living? That's scary.
So it's extremely important to make sure that they are prepared for that. So they take action instead of just sitting idle and
Exactly.
freeze. Yeah.
And you got to keep in mind that that's the most emotional time that a person can possibly experience. So you got to have something in place to help guide them so that they're not just winging it, right?
Right.
It says, communication breakdown. A reluctance to discuss your feelings can lead to blame, anger, arguments among family members, creating more conflict during an already stressful time. So yes, we've seen that. We've gone over that. Impact on children. Let's talk about impact on children.
Okay.
Let's say that one or both parents are gone. If you don't have anything arranged on who's going to take your children, who's going to take care of them, and make sure that there's money so that they can properly take care of your children and have it set up so that someone just can't steal the kid's money and take all of it, have a executor or something in place so that the person who takes care of them, they're taken care of, and your children, they're taken care of. You have
Yep.
to set this stuff up. I know for our children, I had everything set up. I was like, okay, listen, I asked someone in the family, could you take our kids if something happens? They agreed. I said, listen, you'll get this much, which was a very hefty number. I said, and the kids, they'll get this much. Do you agree? Have everything in writing? They were like, yes. And so, we made those arrangements. Fortunately,
Like
we didn't have to
godparents,
use
right?
that. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But family members, right.
Right.
And fortunately, we didn't need that, so
But it's
Thankful for
still
that.
good
Thank God
to
for
put
that.
that in place. Yep.
Absolutely. So this is all that we have. Do you have anything else to add before we close, Kenny?
No, great topic. I think that this is a topic that a lot of people, it's uncomfortable for some people, but I think, a lot of people need to hear this because some people don't think about it. And if you haven't been thinking about it, think about it, get it out the way, establish that, and then move on.
Exactly. Your family needs you whether you're here or not. They'll really need you if you're not. So just try to make some arrangements and talk to them. And, don't be superstitious and don't be afraid because some people just don't do it. And then they don't have a will and their assets go God knows where, and
I've
then their
heard many
family is
stories
just short
of a will not being made and everything, and it had a lot of problems.
or a complete zoo. Right.
Yeah,
So this is what we do on the Good Parent, Bad Parent podcast by Kenneth and Kenneth. It's not just about your experience of raising children or anything like that. Most podcasts that mention parent, they're only focused on children. We focus on everything. And
yeah,
if you have any information or stories or anything that you can share, let your story be someone else's breakthrough, you can click the link below or you can go to usingmyvoice.com where there's instructions on how you can submit information that can be featured on our site. Do you have anything else in closing, Kenny?
that's right. And just remember one thing: if you think that no one else cares, just know we care here
We
at
care. The Good Parent, Bad Parent podcast by Kenneth and Kenneth. We're
Peace.
out of here.